we are an electronics recycler and refurbisher. So we have a few different aspects to the nonprofit business. We're a social enterprise. So we do have some retail aspects where we sell the things that we refurbish. And we work with a lot of corporate clients on the recycling side, and then a lot of community initiatives and sustainability goals. So very interesting, very unique.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, welcome back for another episode of Business Ninjas. I'm here today with Alex Karatkiewicz. He's the Director of Retail and Marketing at Comprenew. Alex, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, excited to have you. So Alex, why don't you start and tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Born and raised Grand Rapids, Michigan. Went to college here. Love it here, and actually had a chance to move around for a bit after school, and naturally found my way back. I had graduated with a degree in nonprofit administration, so it's always been my goal to work in the field in some capacity or another. So I've had a few different experiences in that regard, and found my way back, found my way to Comprenew, and here we are.
That's fascinating. So tell me a little bit more about Comprenew.
Sure. So we are an electronics recycler and refurbisher. So we have a few different aspects to the nonprofit business. We're a social enterprise. So we do have some retail aspects where we sell the things that we refurbish. And we work with a lot of corporate clients on the recycling side, and then a lot of community initiatives and sustainability goals. So very interesting, very unique.
Interesting. So talk to me a little bit, more about what that process looks like working with, Comprenew.
Absolutely. Well, some people ask me what my typical day-to-day looks like, and that's a fun one to answer because there's so many different aspects to what we do. So for me personally, being the Director of Retail and Marketing, we do have a few stores, and so we work with obviously the community. We do our kind of slogan is shop, repair, recycle. And so those things all feed into our sustainability mission of reuse. Instead of those electronics finding their way to the landfill, they are refurbished and reused by people. And then we do our repair. So if you have your devices, electronic devices, and you need them repaired to keep them out of that system altogether, we offer those services. And then obviously the recycling thing. Sometimes it comes down to just, it doesn't work anymore and it's so old as tech goes, it just kind of cycles out. And so we make sure that we are breaking those things down and sending them to places where they can be properly recycled and not harming the environment.
And how would people go about doing that?
Sure. So we have, we're primarily West Michigan based right now, and we're, for like the retail perspective side of it, because those where our stores are and our main location. We work with corporate clients around the United States. And so that's very, more expansive because we can drive to those places and pick up and do trucks and stuff, to those businesses directly. We recently went all the way down to Florida, so we'll come to you. We'll find you. And we're working on ways to increase that, especially the recycling side of things for like just general people who have, the phones. There's always that drawer of electronics that I feel like no one knows what to do with. They look at it and they're like, what do I do? So if you're in Michigan, we're right here for you. And if you live in a different state, we're finding ways to get connected with you.
That's really interesting. So kind of pivoting a little bit to your clients, would you say the biggest challenge that your clients have before they start working with Comprenew is kind of fighting that circular economy and making sure that they're, reusing their electronics? Would you say that's the biggest challenge that they face, or talk to me about that?
Yeah, so especially on the corporate services side of things, well, in general, really, people, yeah, it is getting people comfortable with the idea that their electronics do cause harm if not properly recycled. And so there are a lot of places that those go that negatively impact the environment. But yeah, it's really important to make sure that those are going to someone and a group like us who are highly certified to deal with those and make sure that that is happening. But then additionally, data security is huge. Obviously, every piece of electronic you have has some sort of your data on it. And if you're a business that has a lot of clients themselves, hospitals, banks, I mean, so on and so forth, there are a lot of your customer data out there. And so you want to make sure that you're giving those to people like us, like Comprenew, who are certified to handle that data and disrupt it in a way that isn't going to harm the people either. So.
Yeah. I didn't even think of that. That makes so much sense talking about like data protection and that didn't even think of that. So you mentioned banks and hospitals. Are those kind of trends that you see in client profiles? Like talk to me a little bit about who tends to work, with that corporate arm of Comprenew.
Yeah, absolutely. So those are the big ones that come to mind, but it can, I mean, it can be anything down to a small business, anyone, or we have our middle grounds, other nonprofits work with us. But those big ones that handle other clients' data, that's like a big reason why they use us is, yeah, because those things are highly sensitive. So, yeah, obviously banks and hospitals are the ones that come to mind because those have the most customer data, but there's a lot of them out there.
Yeah, totally. And then talking about the individual kind of aspect of the company, is there, I know you said you're primarily in Michigan, but is there again kind of a client profile of who tends to, recycle or anything like that with Comprenew?
Sure. Well, we have a lot of community partners that do some outreach for us on our behalf or do some collection events. That's a big part of it. That is the interesting part of this business is that everyone has electronics.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to pin it down into client profiles. Obviously we have a lot of people that buy from us as well. So yeah, on the recycling side, it really comes down to, do you have a phone and a laptop? Because, or the old speakers or the old receivers and televisions and stuff, everyone's got that. So,
Yeah. So it's interesting that you mentioned that, making sure that people are having the conversations about recycling the electronics. I imagine that's a big part of it as well. And with Earth Day being in April, are you guys doing any like incentives or, anything for special for Earth Day?
um, yeah, that's always a very fun conversation to have because we do these things all year round. So there's kind of that like Earth Day is every day saying that a lot of people use. So our stores do on Earth Day have a tradition of taking in free recycling. Sometimes we do have to charge for like the bigger and older electronics just so that they're properly recycled as a nonprofit that just covers our costs, on the other side of things. And so we offer kind of like a gift of free recycling on that day. But we also do like community recycling events throughout the spring, summer, and fall. So particularly on Earth Day, we send out, I think there's 3 events going on this weekend in particular, which is quite a lot. And then we also have a team of people here who are going to a local Earth Day event downtown and doing some booth work with people. So that'll be fun too.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. Do you think it's that mentality of, Earth Day every day that really kind of differentiates Comprenew from its competition? Like, is there something else? Like, talk to me about that.
Yeah, I'd say the differentiation from us primarily, or for us primarily, is those certifications that I mentioned, because there are there are quite a few certifications, but we hold some pretty high ones for quality, things that we send downstream, things that we reuse. that data certification that really protects those customers across the board. But then the big ones are some environmentally related, and we have a couple of them. We're actually the only nonprofit to have both eStewards and R2 certifications, which are both environmental electronics related certifications. And the main point there being the most important thing is some people collect electronics, some groups collect electronics, don't have those certifications, and then they tend to just send them wherever because they're not held within those bounds of those certifications. And I think something that a lot of people don't know is that those electronics end up in other countries around the world and are often burned and poorly disposed of and mined for like those minerals that are in there. And that can be really harmful on the environment. So for us, all those little pieces of the pie, we could talk about, all the different certifications, but collectively all together, every piece of electronic for us is every day for us is, Earth Day, if you will.
That's great. That's great. I love that. And, it sounds like there's a lot of aspects of the business that have to be considered for the corporate side, but also the individuals regarding recycling, the importance of it and engaging in those conversations. So do you think, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but do you think one of the biggest misconceptions in the industry is that people can kind of like you started to mention it, is people can just give their, recycled electronics to any company, anybody to, recycle?
Yeah, I would definitely say that's true. There is an initial barrier of you can't just throw your electronics away. You should probably give them to someone who can do something proper with them. And there are even moments where we have conversations with people who say, why couldn't I just throw this away? And then this opens up this conversation that we're having, And so there is that initial barrier. And then once you get past that, there is I'm sorry, I lost my train of
No, it's okay.
that.
It's okay. The initial barrier being like have the conversation and then talking about giving it to anybody to recycle.
Yes, thank you. So yes, once you understand that you do need to give them to people who can do something with them, it really is about choosing the people who are going to do something proper with them. And so we have a zero landfill policy here at Comprenew. We do not ship our things overseas. So we call ourselves good stewards of the environment and the products.
That's fantastic. So Alex, if people wanted to learn more about Comprenew, where would they go to learn more?
Sure. Well, our website is comprenew.org, and that's a good start, and that has a lot of our mission and corporate services attached to it. And then we also have a shop, comprenew.org site for those reuse aspects and more for our stores and stuff. And then the typical social media, Instagram, Facebook,
Love it. Love it. Awesome. Well, Alex, this has been a great conversation. As we start to wrap up, is there anything that you want to leave our listeners with, either about, the circular economy, about recycling in general, the industry, anything you want to leave our listeners with?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you touched on it right there. The circular economy is big, and thinking about where we're headed in the future with technology specifically and those electronic devices. We produce as the world moves on, and there are more and more new items coming into the life cycle all the time. And so really thinking about what happens to all those devices is huge. And where are they all going to go? And at some point, people have to acknowledge that we can't just produce until, I don't know what happens. So that's why we're here, to help answer those questions and to help provide options that aren't just buying new, they're buying just as good, just as quality electronics for people, and again, recycling those things that can't be. So
fantastic. Well, Alex, this has been a great conversation. I appreciate you diving a little bit more into, the circular economy, talking about recycling, the great initiatives for Earth Day being every day. I love it. And I just really appreciate you being on Business Ninjas today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was great.
Yeah, great to have you. you.